Hello all and welcome back to the RH Vodcast. I'm Chris, and today our victim is the founder and creative director at Sheng Productions, a Hong Kong-based full-service creative media production agency which specializes in film and video. Sheng Productions has worked with major brands from Tencent to Tatler to TEDx, LVMH to L'Oreal,
very nice.
ANZ to Accenture to AstraZeneca. You see what I did there?
I see what you did. Very nice.
It's a literary device.
Yeah.
He and his team are also excellent creators of comedic short form and long form content on their platform, The Writer's Room. I highly encourage all of you to check out the very funny parody of hit comedy series The Office, named The Agency, as well as the hilarious dating scene parody series The Right Swipe, which we'll also get into. Sheng Productions leads with the line that everybody has a story worth telling. In his case, I highly doubt that, but he's here to prove us wrong. So a warm welcome to John Shea.
Thanks for having me on, Chris.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Tell us about your early life. Apparently you were born in New Zealand, but you're from Hong Kong.
Yeah. So I was born in New Zealand, got an awesome passport so I can flee if needed, and moved here when I was 3 months, and then pretty much grew up in the international circle. So I went to, ESF school, graduated West Island, and then, ended up staying in Hong Kong and studying in University of Hong Kong, despite a lot of my friends leaving, and somehow figured out my way to go from essentially studying accounting to doing video production.
Pump the brakes here. We got to go back. I'm gonna jump into West Island in a second. What were your parents like? What sort of influences were they like on you?
So both my parents were both my parents were teachers. My dad was a professor in University of Hong Kong, and then my mother was a lecturer in PolyU. So two very academic parents. Big focus on education, pretty traditional parents, but like the interesting thing is I have 3 older brothers. So my oldest brother is a doctor. The second one is in finance, banker. The one after is now a professor, associate professor teaching in the US. So I essentially had free reins to do whatever I want because they ticked all the boxes in terms of golden child. So I was the runt and I just did whatever I wanted, which is why I do what I do right now. How
fortunate.
Yeah.
You're a pretty confident communicator. How did your early upbringing sort of influence that? Were you always like that?
I think I was always they always say the youngest is the joker or the comedian of the family. So for sure that was me. I didn't really take anything serious. I was trying to get attention by, acting or doing silly skits, or I wasn't afraid of the limelight. And so I was always a funny kid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experiences at West Island. Shout out to Tom over there, my co-founder, also West Island massive. Were you involved in the arts at a young age there? What opportunities were there?
No, not at all. I don't think I've taken a single film course in university or high school. I've taken one, but I didn't even discover film or video production until university, and only because my best friend from high school, Jack, who I co-founded the company with, he was really into making films, and in summers he would, after he went to study in the UK, he'd come back and he's like, oh, let's make a short film for the summer. And then I sort of, just because I hung around with him a lot, I'm like, what is this? And then I wanted to be a part of it, and that sort of snowballed. So I think that's the one connection I can link back to West Island. But in terms of arts, I wanted to be a designer when I was younger. I was really into design technology. Didn't get into any schools that were good enough, so I just ended up going the safe route and studying business or accounting. Yeah.
Fair. It's still, you got into HKU, which is a pretty good uni, where you did a BA in accounting and finance.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience. Did you value that sort of education?
I think it's a degree that isn't, I don't know. Maybe I was more interested in marketing, but I think a marketing degree is kind of a bit too much fluff for me. I think it's a legitimate like degree where it's a profession. So I think that's how my dad sold it to me. I was like 17 at the time. I didn't know any better. I just said, okay, that sounds good. Studied it for 3 years, and maybe the middle, a year and a half in, I was telling all my friends, if I become an accountant, you're gonna find me dead in like 2 years, because I didn't want to do it. I was absolutely I hated the whole degree, but I finished it because I think it's important I didn't know what else I wanted to do. I didn't think there was another degree that had tangible benefits, and this one, at least, I think, even now, I think it paid off, like running my own business. I'm not afraid of numbers. I'm sort of more aware of, operational costs and stuff. So I do think it paid off. I just didn't like it at all, and I didn't enjoy my university experience very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you're now the leader of your own business. Did you feel like it gave you the skills that you needed to lead a business effectively?
I think it gave me the drive to do what I wanted to do after graduating, just because I felt like maybe I lost time there, and I felt like I just didn't enjoy what I was doing. And I'm like, if I'm going to work and I'm going to put so much time, and like I actually, tried in the degree, because I have to, or my parents will kill me. They'll beat me. I'm joking. But I think, I just didn't want to, bust my ass on something I didn't care about. So, and I think people spend so much time, like so much of their lives working. Like, why would you want to do something you didn't really care about? I mean, like do something that you're willing to suffer for. So I think, that's why I sort of, stuck with doing video production for this long.
Leaving HKU, you went to work with Edelman, which is a global PR company. Now, somebody who'd studied what you'd studied, one might have expected you to step into the finance field. What was your mindset like leaving university? Were you confident in your sort of career path and your decisions? Was it a tough time? How were you feeling at that time?
It brings me back actually. So I couldn't get any jobs. I think it was a really tough market or year that time. And I ended up I tried to actually get into film school. I couldn't get in. That's another interesting point. And then I just had a friend who was interning in Edelman. And I do think Hong Kong is very much like a connections-based place. It's such a small place, though, and I think, there's just it's about connections to a degree. And he managed to just get me a spot interning there. And, I really didn't want to do accounting, so I was trying to do everything but that. And I wasn't really sure what to do or how to, because I was making short films in the summers, and I was getting really into video production. I made another short with my friend Jack called Lads in China, which I was really happy with. And actually, funny thing, when I got interviewed by Edelman, they were interested because they saw that production. Because I feel like my skill set didn't really fit their needs. I mean, I was accounting and they were a PR company. I didn't really have Cantonese background. I was English first language. So it was a bit of a strange fit, and they just thought, he's an intern, he has this interesting skill, let's give him a shot. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? I mean, Edelman is a very large company. I mean, a global PR communications firm, 6,000 staff in 60 offices all over the world, based in New York. What was it like fitting into a company like that at the time? And how did you manage to carve a niche there?
Yeah, I actually loved it. It was equivalent to me. For me, it was equivalent to my university, like what I think university life is, because it was a bunch of fresh grads, young, like happy to hang out, go out for drinks, and just have a good time. And there, you hung around each other a lot. So I think it was a really nice, first couple of years. And then, what's the next bit?
Carving a niche.
And the thing is, at that time, Edelman was still very much old school PR, journalist background. Everything was print or, writing.
Yeah.
They just realized that everything was moving towards digital content, video. Like social media was getting huge, and everyone just like, that's where we're supposed to go, not these events. And I mean, events and articles are still essential, but you have to support it with all this like production on the side, content production. And that's where they're like, oh, who's this guy? Like, he's like, I was one of the only few people who could do video production, because that wasn't their core business. And about a year, I interned for about 3 months. That was my contract. And then they didn't feel like they needed me. And they're like, we can't find a need for you. But one of the managers, shout out to Roman, he's like, just chill out, like just stick around for a month and a half or 2 more months. And we might be able to give you something, because we see how important this is. And so I stuck around, and they gave me a contract. And about 6 months or a year in, there were talks of starting up a new team called the studio division. And somehow, I was essentially part of that, genesis of that team, that whole new content stream or production stream. And that sort of got my credentials for doing production, because I didn't have any educational background in it. I learned everything off, just doing it myself or online. And that gave me the credentials to get clients on my own.
Amazing. How did the Edelman experience come to an end?
This is a great story too. So they hired a new creative director. They were getting very serious. They wanted to, because the team was being run by the old school content guy who was more from a print journalist background, and they wanted someone from the ad agency. And essentially brought him in, and he was pretty harsh, and I'd say he was not happy with working with non-ad, or he's working with PR people, and he decided to just clean house and start anew. So just wipe the studio team clean, and got rid of me, and sort of, I didn't want to say I was fired, so I said, I'm leaving to start a company. That's how I announced to the team. And, I didn't want to look like a fool, so I actually started a company.
So this was the genesis of Sheng.
This is it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a true story.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
There you go. I was going to say, what was your mindset like at that time? But, you probably didn't have much time to think. You were probably just full steam into this company, right?
Yeah. I remember in the room when I was being fired, the creative director was French, and he's like, John, this could be the best thing that ever happens to you. And at the moment, I was like, man, what a like, it's such a, how can you say that to someone? Well, I guess he's trying to glass half full type of thing. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to internalize this, and I'm going to use that as like a chip on my shoulder. And I got up, shook his hand. I'm like, thanks for the opportunity. And then I just remember that moment. It could go like 2 ways. And I'm just like, I'm going to make sure I like do well and like try to turn this around. So I think that was sort of like a motivational factor, like chip on my shoulder that I still think about to this day. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. You were right, man.
Okay. So there we go.
Is this a therapy session, by the way?
Yeah, it's starting to get like that.
It's starting to get like that.
Let me quickly change the subject. Sheng Productions.
Yeah.
Sheng Productions. How did it, you said that Sheng Productions is perhaps a mix of 2 names.
Yeah.
What was in the ideation process about how you wanted to position that business?
So I started it with my best friend in high school, Jack Cheng. So his name Cheng combined with my last name Shea made Sheng. And that's pretty much all there is to it.
What was the strategy initially?
Right.
What were you trying to target?
There was no target. It was just trying to stay afloat. I had some I had some clients that were essentially ex-colleagues from Edelman. either they probably just left. I think they left and then they came back to me, and they remembered me because I was nice to them. So that's how it started off, but it was not enough to like survive. So I worked part-time for a great production company named Mediam Rare. It was just me and really great production company. I worked with a guy named Boris, and he basically taught me everything I knew. And while that was going on, I had like 2 days a week to do the Sheng Productions side biz, and I just kept at it, and people kept, Edelman's a lot of these agencies are high turnover, and I think they just remember me because I was just a really green, excited young kid who was just saying yes to everything, and I was only one of the few people who could do video, so I got to work with a lot of people, and it's quite a big company, so because I started from there, I managed to build up like enough clients through word of mouth and just them coming back that I realized I could actually maybe take a leap of faith and do this full time. So it was about a year, actually exactly to the day, I think a year, I worked with Mediam Rare, and then I left to do my own thing. Yeah.
I want to get a little bit into the style of your work with Sheng Productions. You've obviously worked with some amazing brands, and there was a theme I noticed with some of your work. For example, with Nespresso, you made an excellent production about their recycling chain in Hong Kong for their pods. More recently, Happy Plugs earphones. You've done some great work around showing their production line, their construction process to make the finished product, and that was very compelling video. Also with Grégoire Michaud, founder of Bakehouse for nice. Tatler. I'm francophone, so I do this.
Nice.
So on the source of his inspiration, there's a trend there that I noticed in that your production style, takes the viewer to what's real. I wanted to understand whether there was a conscious effort on your part to establish a style where you try and sort of get to the source of the product, the source of the story, or is it perhaps not that nuanced?
Yeah, I think that's just great research, but there's nothing there. It was just out of opportunity. Obviously, I would love to make like a commercial for the products they sell, but it was sort of, we were a smaller company at the time, and they're like, "Ooh, we got this cool video on the supply chain," and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna approach this like it's the big product commercial." So I took a lot of pride in taking whatever opportunity I had and just going like 110%. And I think, it started off with Nespresso, then et cetera. And then like I got to work with Grégoire Michaud, that was tons of fun. I feel like that was one of my favorite videos of all time.
Amazing.
Yeah. And that's sort of just like continually just, putting the work in and just getting slightly bigger and bigger opportunities. And hopefully we use that to, leapfrog into the bigger commercial space.
Is that something that you would advise people, who are doing similar types of work to focus on, trying to go above and beyond? Is that something that's worked out well for you?
100%. I think for me, I think a big part was that taking every job, like, I don't really like this idea of like a small client, I'm just going to give them just what they need, or like the budget's small, give them what's fair. I think sometimes you just got to be generous and be kind with your time and your effort, and it pays off. I think being nice actually pays. And I think that's how I approached all my clients, and they keep coming back. So just going above and beyond is just, just because I want to make fantastic work, but also I don't want to focus on like being petty about like, oh, we didn't have budget here. I'm just going to put in my own money, or it's that extra time to get it where I'm really proud of it. And hopefully that, gives you more, either they come back and they usually keep coming back, or, it gets you that portfolio piece that you can use for the next client.
I'd like to ask you a bit about your work in the education sector. So I've noticed that you've worked with several education institutions in Hong Kong, whether it be the Victoria Shanghai Academy, Stanford American School, where you've done some great work with them, Hong Kong Baptist University, and I believe there are others, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that there is a style that comes out of that, where your work tends to, rather than focus on the community or the general corpus of the student body, you identify certain individuals and you tell their story in a very compelling way. I'd encourage everyone to look at his work with David Isijola, who was a student at Hong Kong Baptist University, which was fantastic. Can you sort of tell us a little bit about the thought process behind that type of work?
Yeah, I think for us, we try to, we have my producer and writer, Nathan, fantastic, very creative mind, fantastic writer. And I think it's just so much easier to make a good story when you have the human element to it. And that's just working with more tangible storylines. It's difficult to sum up the values of a school. But if you focus on a person who embodies the values or tell their story, it just humanizes the story, and actually it just makes it a lot easier to write. So I think that's probably the main different approach we have with these educational clients. We're looking for cool stories and just fleshing out with great writing, rather than focusing on the 5 values. And although that's important, I think the more fun side is talking and working with these cool human stories.
Does the passion that you put into your work for educational clients reflect any of your personal experiences in education, some of the developmental decisions that you took, wanting to give back? Where does that passion come from?
Yeah, a great question. I'm not a philanthropist, Chris. I'm just an entrepreneur. No, but I really think it is such a blast working for schools, because you work with teachers are really nice people. They're philanthropists. They're giving back. They're so generous with their time. It's different when you work in more of a commercial corporate space where time is money, you know. And you get to work with these kids who are childhood for a lot of people is the happiest time of their carefree. So I think that environment I really enjoy working in. I think it's it's good to mix it up. If you stay in corporate all the time, it just gets a little bit dry, a little bit jaded. But it's nice to, work in a school and everyone's just so excited. Oh, the camera's coming in today. The kids are jumping in front of the camera versus, the execs who are just oh, just get that thing away from me. Am I done yet? So it's just it's a different side of it's another client that different type of client that I really enjoy.
In terms of a comparison between your older work and your newer work, your older work appears to adhere more to sort of a stereotypical video production style. Your newer work shows perhaps an evolution towards a style, a unique style of storytelling. Can you speak a little bit to how your style has evolved over time and why? Yeah,
for sure. I think the main reason is I just got better. I think the first couple years, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have any training, and I joined an agency that was doing PR. It's not the best way to learn production. And then I joined Mediam Rare, which was great because I did start to learn production. Then I got better. Obviously, I was working alone in the early days of Sheng Productions, and it's limiting. But eventually, when I hired Nathan, my producer and writer, he just added so much creativity and energy. And an interesting thing about him is he doesn't really have a background either. So he's a dreamer. He will come up with, he believes we can win an Oscar in 5 years. I don't want to break it to him, but it's unlikely. But you never know. But he just pushed what I thought was possible, and it was just refreshing and motivating to have him come on board and just say, hey, let's make a Nike commercial for this school. And I'm okay, let's try. And then Prince came on board, who's my editor, and he's just been, I think he's a wizard. He doesn't speak much, but he's a workhorse, and I just give him, video clips that are sometimes, I don't know how he's going to fix it, and he somehow turns it into gold. You can always roll a turd in glitter, and then it's a golden turd, and it's pretty good, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be thrilled with that.
Yeah,
with that comparison.
sorry, Prince, but he's usually he's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah.
How was doing business during the pandemic like for you? Was it a struggle, or did you manage to push through?
Yeah, that was one of the most shocking things, because I think during the pandemic somehow we grew. I didn't know it was possible, but we had like a lot of retainer clients that kept us afloat, and yeah, and I don't know what happened, but I managed to expand. I'm not sure maybe I just gave promotions or something, or I think I hired one more person, and I don't know. I think I was very lucky. I think it's just, you know, my clients are really good to me, and they keep coming back even when times are tough. Yeah, it was great.
It's a great story. I want to ask you about technology. How do you see the future of your business versus the growth of AI? It's obviously very topical at the moment. Do you have a take? Yeah.
I mean, I've played around a little bit with like ChatGPT and like Jasper AI, and I think it's pretty scary how good it is at writing content, coming up with AI art. I think like video shooting, I don't know when they're gonna like figure out how to hold a camera, but we're not that far away. I think I'm safe for a little bit, but I'm gonna try and make as much money as I can in like 10 years and then just bounce. Cause I think my job's gone after that. I don't know how much longer I have, Chris, but I think what you're doing is difficult to replace. So that's a good decision.
Well, I mean, we mustn't pat each other on the back too much, but my thoughts was that storytelling is something that's relatively safe. If you bring unique ideas,
yeah,
that shouldn't be too bad, should it?
I think you know, I think the AI software is such an amazing generator for like ideas. Like, you give it a prompt, and it can spit out like 20 ideas for episodes, you know? But I don't think it's entirely there yet for, you know, writing a full script or story. And yeah, you're probably right. I think we're safe for now, but it's just the beginning, and it's growing so fast. So, I mean, I think the stuff we do for social media, the short form content, I don't think it's probably going to be 50-50 at some point soon.
Wow.
I think it's the longer, meatier chunks of content that require a lot more skill and storytelling, like skill. I think that's a little bit safer.
Let's talk about the agency. Fantastic series. Your colleague Nathan obviously believes that you guys are going to make it to Hollywood.
Yeah.
The hook for your Facebook page is "Ever wonder where the 99.9% of people that fail to make it to Hollywood go?" So clearly you don't believe you're getting anywhere soon.
No.
Do you know where we are right now? What street we're on?
Hollywood Road. I made it.
That's right, John.
I made it. I'm in Hollywood. Amazing.
Exactly. It's about the journey. There we are. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the cast. It's obviously a very, very funny production. It's you know, a sort of take on The Office, a sort of parody of The Office. Your role is the leader, perhaps a pathetic impression of Ricky Gervais's David Brent, or a primitive ape to Steve Carell's Michael Scott. You have a striking lack of accounting knowledge that belies your tertiary education. What do you like out of character, or is that, you know, pretty accurate?
That is my character. I think I have I'm playing a role when I talk to my clients. So this is my therapy. It's like a cathartic release of finally I can be myself. No, but it was, you know, I'm not that, I wouldn't say I'm that creative of a person. So I came up with that show because I'm like, I think I'm just going to write myself. And the stuff we do, I think it's a pretty fun workplace. We're just joking around half the time, me and Nathan, and Prince just like, you know, listens with one ear. And I just took a lot of the, you know, the shenanigans we talk about every day, and I put it into an episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just I think we had all the resources too. I think one interesting thing is the agency was a result of me feeling that our other IP, The Right Swipe, it took a lot of planning and budget and time, and I still wanted to be able to exercise that muscle where you are creating your own content, and that was sort of something that was just, it was right there, and I could do it immediately. It was simple, and I could write it. So that was why I made that show.
Prince Augustin de Guzman. You've commented on him briefly, but watching the show, he really does seem like the only rational person on your team.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
That's 100% fair. He's the only sane person on the team. But we don't really do much of the work. It's just him. It's just him just editing away. Sort of like Ace. I don't know.
No, it's like Tom. Tom
Like
has his
Tom.
headphones on
Like
all the
Tom.
time because
Exactly.
he doesn't want to put up with all of the noise.
Yeah.
So Nathan's character is very funny. So he's sort of portrayed as a sort of chain smoking, sort of fast food glutton, sort of very underqualified.
He's actually I think his best achievement is he had gout by 27.
Nice.
Yeah.
Charming.
Yeah. Impressive, right?
Yeah.
He has a King's disease by 27.
Yeah. In addition to coming across like a complete sexual predator on the show.
Yeah.
So it also seems like he wants to take over as leader of the team.
Yeah.
So you better watch your back.
This is true. He does. He has his own little side company. It's true. He calls it Nias Hung. It's a amalgamation with him and Caius Chung, Nathan and Caius.
Oh, I thought Caius had his own thing going.
Yeah, but Nathan's also trying to like leech onto him. He's kind of a leech.
Gosh, everyone's jumping into bed with everyone else.
Yeah.
Caius. Look, he's in the show. He seems very, very underappreciated. Clearly the most knowledgeable person in your team.
Yeah.
But also equally the most arrogant.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that a fair assessment?
Oh yeah, he's the only one who went to film school.
Okay.
He's the film school guy.
That guy, huh?
Yeah.
Excellent. Look, I was laughing like crazy watching it, and
thank you.
I recommend everybody to get involved and watch 1 or 2 episodes. It's great fun. You've got a platform called the Writers Room, where you put this stuff on. Again, like and follow, guys. And therein you have a project which is a satire of the Hong Kong dating scene called Right Swipe. Again, very, very funny. Perhaps you could speak to what inspired the idea behind it.
Yeah. When we came up with it, it was maybe like the 2nd or 3rd season where Queer Eye came out, the reboot. And I love that show. Is amazing. And then, Tinder was, everyone was on Tinder. And one of, I guess, our like friend of friend came up to me. He's like, "Can I do a dating show based on me like being the guru of like dating profiles and reviewing people's Tinder profiles?" And I was just like, "Oh, it's an interesting idea," but I didn't really want to. I wasn't really that interested. And that sort of was the inception of this idea where, we just thought everyone's just making these fake profiles online. It's just, there's so much, like how much of social media or your social presence is really the real you? And also there was this whole, toxic masculinity, toxic just dating.
Yeah.
Like the dating world's just getting crazy these days. So we just took all that and just made it into a show. Yeah.
What's the reception been like? You've obviously got past the pilot.
Yeah.
Another episode's been produced. You've had the screening for that. What's the reception been like for it? And in terms of getting ideas and having people to bounce off and getting, just constructive criticism for it, what's the scene like in Hong Kong for this type of content?
Right. What was the first question?
The reception.
Yeah, the reception. So I think everyone who watched it, like this show doesn't hold back. I think the first pilot crosses the line at points. It really pushes, especially in like today's cancel culture, or like it wouldn't make it in America. I'll just say that. And it's probably good that not many people have seen it because I might get canceled. But I think it was really refreshing, and it was bold, and it wasn't afraid. And I think, Nathan wrote the whole thing, and he's just very unapologetic with just a lot of the, it's all satire. It's based on truth, and he just sees all these problems, and he's just pushing that problem right in your face to the extreme.
Right.
And that's why I love it. It's just just so unapologetically honest about it. And I think everyone who's watched it, most of them love it and they get what we were doing. Some of them are like, what like, how dare you? How dare you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the second episode, we sort of tried to, I think the first episode was like a little bit too brute force, just in your face. The second episode, I think Nathan did a really good job just elevating and crafting the jokes a little bit better. And I was really proud of that one. And I think it's sort of, I mean, we do it, I mean, we obviously would love to get it picked up, but at the same time, it's like we are writing something that we find super funny. And honestly, like we are the audience. Like our small group of friends are the audience. Yeah.
And the other thing, yeah, it's about the community for this type of content creation.
Yeah.
Do you see other outfits doing this? Do you have anything to compare yourself to bounce yourself off? Or in Hong Kong, is it a relatively rare product? I
think it's super rare. I haven't seen anyone be so ambitious to try and make a 42-minute pilot. I'm sure like there's a lot of filmmakers, like, you know, you had Brock on the show, who make like short films, and they do it so well. I think they realize that it's probably a bit crazy to do something so long with zero budget. Like we just financed everything ourselves. The only reason we did it was because Nathan was like new and he's just like, we can do this. Like, why not? Let's go for it. And I'm just like, okay, let's give it a shot. And we just went for it. And I think we're definitely out of our depths. And there's a reason why people look for funding. And you have to cut a lot of corners. But I still think it's really cool what we did. And I don't see many people doing it. The only one that comes to mind is another director called Craig McCurry. I was an extra in some of his movies. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of the name.
But he's done some crazy things where like he's really into making war films, but he funds it himself, and it's like historic films in 1942, and he just like redecorates his whole house and somehow figures out a way to make it happen with his own budget. I don't even know how he pulls it off, but it looks good. And I think that's the only other person I think of being that ambitious. Yeah.
One of the things that's noticeable in your comedic productions is the support that you get from the community of people around you, who will come in, play little roles, extras, things like that, just to make it happen. What has working in a co-working space like the Hive done for facilitating that kind of thing? What's that experience been like?
Yeah, I think the Hive has been an amazing, just by chance, because I live near there, I joined the Hive in Kennedy Town, and I've become really good friends with a lot of the managers who came through there, and they've been so generous with just letting us use their space like a playground for filming, essentially. And they have 4 floors that we've, like in the agency, you see all of it in the right swipe. You see us use it all the time. And it's just been like a way to film for free and make it even possible, because locations are probably the most expensive thing. And then with, the friends we meet there, those little side bits, like in the agency, James Sakrani was the accountant who came. He just was one of the hot deskers, or like dedicated deskers, who sat behind me, and we just struck up a friendship over the years. And it's just convenient. They pop up, do a little extra, a scene as an extra. So yeah, it's been a serendipitous place to work at.
I want to ask you about how it works for marketing.
Yeah.
So this type of humorous content, what is the reaction from clients, from corporate clients? Do they even see it? And what's the collateral effect? Does it help you get business? Does it hurt your business?
Yeah.
Is it purely done out of passion? Is it partly done as a marketing tool? Is it fair to ask that question? Yeah,
for sure. I think this is definitely not marketing. I think most of my clients don't really know about it, and I think that's fine. I think it's more like, I want to do something. A lot of these productions it's really just for me. It's really like, I think, to want to make something that's your own passion project with the goal of like marketing or financial success sometimes gets in the way. So I really enjoy just making something just because it's to show my friends for a laugh.
Yeah.
And that's the core of it. I think that's why I got into it in the first place when I was working with Jack in like high school. He was just making short films for fun, for a laugh. It was very inside jokes. And it's still sort of true nowadays with why I make these side productions.
And that goes on to my next question, which is a bit more profound, which is, through your life, what has comedy meant to you? What does it do for you? Does it have any effect on your own psyche? Does it help you? Do you take comfort in it?
Yeah.
What does it mean to your life, and would you like to take it further?
Yeah, I think for me, comedy has always been like, I guess, probably I mean, I enjoy it. It's also a coping mechanism. It's a way to make people laugh. And, it's like, I think easier for me than socializing, just making someone laugh. I'd rather just crack jokes than have an honest conversation. But
Sorry about all this.
No, it's all good. But for me, I think one funny thing is with really tough clients, me and Nathan have a thing where we start doing impressions of them. It's like comedic relief.
Yeah.
To deal with these difficult clients and situations. So yeah, I think now it's almost like a coping mechanism or like an outlet, to take on. Often we are handling like serious videos with like stakeholders, etc. And it's nice to just have make a video to just take the piss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting into the last part of our interview, I'd like to ask you about leadership. Has your style of leadership changed over time? Yeah,
I think I learned so much from, my first company at Edelman, and just the different, I think one really good thing about working in a big company is you get to see the mechanics and why it got big and why it lasted. And I took a lot of those, like, whether it's how the business runs, but also like how people lead. I took a lot of the good things and I apply it in my company still to this day. And in terms of how it's changed, I think it's such when you start off, it's everything. I was carrying like a suitcase, a tripod, like 3 bags. I basically broke my back doing like production by myself. And there's still parts of me that wants to do that, but it's been really nice to now have a team behind me that's growing, and I get to like let go. And it's been really good too, because it's getting the more work that comes, you can't handle it as an individual anymore, and you have to empower others to help and take over. And I think it's been really nice because my whole team's been up to the challenge and they're doing amazing, and I've, as a result, had more capacity to do, maybe passion projects on the side, or, even handle new clients. So that's been sort of where I'm going right now, just learning to take a step back and just let the team take over.
Can you tell us about some of the learnings that you've gained from running this type of business over the years, and some of the advice that perhaps you might be able to pass on to people who are watching, who might want to be like you?
Right. I think, well, I mentioned it before, but I think a big thing is, I think it pays to be nice. I think you should be nice to people, not just clients, your team, anyone who you come across, because it's such a small city too, especially in Hong Kong. A lot of things are word of mouth, and just I feel like me being nice, people notice and they recommend me, or they come back. And I think that's probably my biggest talent. I try to be nice to people. And then the second is, I think when you're starting in your own business, you just got to be consistent. I think it's really hard I think some artists, it's hard for them to follow a schedule. And I think what's interesting about my life is I went to a big corporate company where it's like you go from 9:30 to 5, and you don't. There are no flexible hours, and you have these, weekly catch-ups and things, and all these. There is a necessity to structure if you want to get your business start it off and like get it to a point where it's sustainable. And the last thing is, I think a lot of artists think they need to starve. They need to starve to be because they say, you have to be a starving artist, starving artist. You can still make art and also take on some of these side hustles and give it 120%. I don't think you have to turn your nose up at it if back from film school and you're like, I gotta make a little cafe video or some like, tiny company. Give it 120% and see where it goes. Because I think, you're only as good as your last project, no matter how big or small. So you should take it seriously.
A fascinating interview. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I
know that all of our team very much look forward to following your progress with Sheng Productions, with the agency, with Right Swipe. It would be great to see what happens next.
Yeah.
And, very much thank you to you, John Shea.
Thank you, Chris.